Hello and welcome to Taking You to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. I'm your host, JP, John Poz from the two-man power trip of wrestling. Of course, joining me is the star of the show, the former WWE World Tag Team Champion and eight-time Smoky Mountain Wrestling Tag Team Champion, one of the greatest trainers ever in the history of the business, the Doctor of Desire himself, Dr. Tom Prichard. Dr. Tom, how you doing today, sir?
Couldn't be better today, John. It's a wonderful day.
What is going on in the world of JPWA?
Well, we actually graduated our first class of 2022 last night in Dixon, Tennessee. As we
Wow.
speak, it would have been March 26th. So we're actually recording this, if I can say. Can I say? I'll say
Yes.
anyway because
Yes.
it's taking you to school. You might learn something.
Yes.
Today, so it's March 27th, and Dixon, Tennessee is a good three and a half hours from Knoxville. Drove it, and I was very happy to see they had a very nice crowd last night at the fairgrounds, and we had 7 people graduate, and we had one guy who graduated before, but was now getting the opportunity besides the previous battle royal that he was in. He got to have his singles professional wrestling debut. Landon Aries debuted last night against
Nice.
OT Green. So very, very successful night. And I got there early to Dixon, went to lunch with the promoter, Casey Gold, and we discussed many, and when I say many, I mean about 2 or 3 topics of professional wrestling, what the future holds, and what's going to happen going forward. So yeah, it was a really nice night, really nice day. And last week we just had a nonstop. One thing ran into the other. It's been like that though, and everybody's had those weeks, had those days, had those years. And I'm really happy when that happens because things just go a lot quicker and they keep me on my toes, and I enjoy being busy these days. It makes me feel alive and reminds me I'm alive. So even when I feel tired, so we've got a lot going, and we're going to take a week off, and then the next class begins on April 4th and goes another 12 weeks. Has some exciting stuff ready for them too.
Nice. Phil is right in. He was at the show. Wow, nice.
Fantastic, Phil. I hope you had a
Yeah,
great
yeah.
time because, and I said this when I got in the ring last night to give everyone their diplomas. I really appreciate the support that Dixon showed, the fans showed. Casey has been running these shows for a while. Prior to KC running the shows, that was Burt Prentice with USA Championship Wrestling. So this is Tennessee Championship Wrestling, and it gives our guys a great platform to go out there where while everyone's nervous, they're trying to be so good and trying to have the best matches and things like that. And I tell everybody that the main thing is to go out there and have fun. You can't mess this up, man. It's something you go out and as a performer, you'll know in your gut. You'll know when you feel it, and just go out and have fun. So it was really, really good to see a nice house and nice people who cheered the guys, booed the guys, and things like that. And I love Tennessee wrestling fans, especially for that, because they understand professional wrestling. I feel a lot better than, well, I can't say a lot better than some, but better than some, and a lot like most too, because I think everyone likes to see young upcoming superstars and be able to say, hey, I saw you when you first started out. So that's very, very cool. Thanks for coming, Phil. Please keep
Yeah.
supporting Casey and his crew down there because they work hard and they really do care about the fans, and they want suggestions, and they want everyone to come out. They want everyone, most importantly, to leave satisfied and full and wanting more at the same time.
You never know with JPWA, right? I mean, Ivy Nile is in NXT. You just had another guy signed to NXT. We talked about him. So JPWA is kind of developing again some of these more, the next crop, if you will.
Look, it takes time. There are no guarantees, so we can't tell everybody. We can't make the claim, "Hey, we're going to get you signed once you come." That's not it. It really is about the journey, and I read a variety of topics in books about people, circumstances, and just the journey you take in life to get what you want. And some people have goals when they come to us, and others just want to go through the experience, which is fine. But there are no guarantees, and it's so great. It is really, really cool when you see someone come in and tell you they want to do this, and then you see the passion, and they go through the boot camp part of it, where what we do in the ring is that much, and I say that all the time. But it's a mental aspect of this. Can you take me challenging you to whether I'm challenging your passion, challenging your confidence, challenging your reasons for being there, and then convince me? Well, that's part of it, because I do scream and I do yell, and it's part of my performance as a coach. I leave it at JPWA when I go home that night, but at the same time, I think about it. I'm trying to inspire and encourage everybody to follow their dreams and fulfill their dreams. Some people need a kick in the ass. Some people need a pat on the back. That much distance, and I don't always know which one to do.
Right.
But I take a chance. Yeah, man.
Right.
It's not that hard. Good job, kid. Kick you right out the door. But people react differently. So, yeah, it's a really cool thing, man, to have guys sign not just with WWE, but NWA, have tryouts with AEW, have get booked on some of the local shows around Tennessee, Georgia, the Carolinas. So, yeah, it's really those are the things that I look at these days that get me excited and fulfill me as far as feeding my soul, my spiritual health, and whatever health I have to deal with along the way. So, yeah, man, it's very, very cool to see people succeed.
We're talking a lot about training, but Bullock has a question. Thoughts on the passing of Scott Hall?
Anytime, especially a guy like Scott Hall, because I've known Scott for a long time as well, and especially when he came into Alabama. But I met Scott, gosh, I'm trying to think of the first time. I went to Germany for Ottawans for a week in Bremen, Germany, to work a match with Stephen Wright. And Scott came out to the ring with me after the show, went to eat in his caravan. And it's sad when anyone passes away like that, but it's even sadder to me when a guy who could be very misunderstood, but who was always playing with people, messing with people, and poking the bear, falls on hard times. And the stories I've heard about falling, breaking his hip, and then staying in his house, 3 or 4 days alone? How does that? Yeah, that just was heartbreaking to me too. And then the circumstances after the blood clot goes into your heart. I was very sad, but it's happened way too soon. Everybody goes through it in life. Everybody's going to meet their ending one way or another. And Scott could be very polarizing at times, but that's for the people who didn't know him. My thoughts on the passing was very sad. I'm sorry to see him go. I'm sorry he doesn't have more time on Earth. Didn't have more time on Earth to even inspire or suggest, give advice to the guys coming up now, because that's what we really do. Once we're done with our career, some guys find it to do it, let me say, more organized and more consistently in a coaching way. But everybody's a coach once they stop wrestling or get on in age, in one way or another, whether you want to or not. Because if one person was inspired by you and they come up and ask you for some advice, I don't think there's one guy I've ever met, at least in my age bracket, who didn't offer at least something that you can take away. And again, I liken it to mining for gold and going to someone and they may just give you a few rocks. And then you may go to someone and they may say one thing they may say one thing, and that's that nugget of gold you've been looking for. Again, having lunch yesterday, we were talking. Casey and I were talking, and I don't even know how we got on this topic, and I can't even talk about the topic right now. But he said, "I'm going to steal that. Do you mind?" I said, "By all means, take it. It's yours." So, just talking and conversation. That's where a lot of that stuff comes from. In fact, that's where the majority of that stuff comes from. And Scott Hall was dynamic and pretty damn good at coming up with stuff that you wouldn't think about. And the way he would say it would make it react or make it resonate, not react, make it resonate with whoever they were talking to. And that was a fun thing about Scott. He knew how to tell stories. He understood. Sometimes he'll start with a nice little story, and as it goes along, he's poking you to get a reaction because he's seeing how to push the buttons. And by the end of the story, he's looking at you laughing, said, "I owned you. You were right in the palm of my hand the whole time." So that's I think the legacy of Scott Hall, the knowledge he had, the experience he had, and the advice and passion he passed along and threw out there. He was a bona fide star. I don't think anybody would argue with that. He was part of the a huge element in making the Attitude Era happen. And then whether you say he changed the business or not, for good or worse, he did. He was part of the biggest faction ever to come in. And at that time, Hulk Hogan was not for turning heel. He didn't want to be that. He didn't want to do that. He thought it would kill him. And he was always looking around, had his ear to the ground. And if it wasn't for Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, I don't know if you could have convinced Hogan. So he had a huge influence in this business, no doubt about it. I truly believe he'd be missed sorely.
Nice. That was from apparently Sheriff Bullock from the great show Deadwood. So good stuff there. But Phil's got a good question for you. Memories of working with Gordon Solie on Georgia Championship Wrestling. I thought you did a great job.
Phil, thank you. You're the only one, because I remember one of the guys in Pro Wrestling Illustrated. They had a one of those introduction articles or whatever it was. They were talking about. I was doing commentary with Gordon. He said I was an insomniac's best friend. So I was, man, wow. Atlanta was a weird time for me. Atlanta was a catalyst, and if I was supposed to go right, I always went left, and that's on me. But Gordon was tremendous. Gordon was a great man. He was a great guy. I got to work with him in Atlanta, and then when I went to Continental Championship Wrestling in Birmingham, I had no idea he was doing commentary there. I had no idea the connection, but Gordon was a lot of fun. He really was, on screen and off screen. So I appreciate anyone remembering Gordon Solie, because he was one of a kind. Really, really was. And he fit the moment. He fit that time frame and made wrestling authentic. And he was there when we did the hanging angle. Not like everybody knows what the hanging angle is, but we did an angle with the Dirty White Boy, myself, and the Dirty White Girl. And years later in FCW, somebody had looked that up. One of the kids, don't remember which one it was, and Dream, Dusty Rhodes was there and in the office, and we started talking about it. I hate watching the old stuff back because I kind of cringe and I look at it and go, my God, I know it's a lot of things that I could have done different, should have done different. But Dream looked at it, and he's watching the follow-up promo with me, and Gordon's reactions were tremendous. And Dream looked at me and said, Gordon was so great. He made that happen. I said, you're right. He made the promo happen. It was if a team effort, yes, but without him being the straw that stirred the drink, it wouldn't have been that. So he was a great, great man. I really enjoyed working with him.
I need to talk to Dr. Tom. I need to talk to Tom.
Yes.
Great storyline. Yep.
Yeah.
I
think we drew an extra $5 next week, by the way.
hey, if you had to do that condom thing in the mouth, then yeah.
I suffered for my craft.
Yeah. Good evening from the Guardian of Chaos.
Good
And
evening,
Colin,
Mr. Chaos.
yes, and Colin says Gordon or Mean Gene, both were the best in my opinion. Would you take Mean Gene Oakland or Gordon Solie?
For my era and where I was at, especially in the South, I don't think I knew Gene very well, and I think Gordon and Gene both enjoyed a beverage now and then, and but for my era, both were on par with each other. Gene got the rib, Gordon got the rib, and the rib being you're having fun, and that was the gist of it, and people knew if you were or you weren't. And both of them got into it. Gene was more of the direct, why I can't believe Bobby Heenan, you, and they were great for each other. Gordon could do the same thing. It was just in a different way, different fashion. So they were both great and both had similar personalities. But I think at the time when Gene was in Minnesota and Gordon was in the South, you were a wrestling commentator. It was up to you to sell the show because you were the thread that all the way through that show, they were relying on information. They were relying on you selling it. They were relying on you telling everyone the story in a language that they understood. And more times than not, both of those guys succeeded. And I remember Gordon saying on a match between myself and the filthy white boy, coming to you from the Gateway of America, Birmingham, Atlanta. And I went, what? Run that back. Birmingham, Atlanta. Yeah, I guess there was. But yeah. No, both great. Yeah, both very, very cool.
This is a good one. From the Nate Train himself, is Dr. Tom really a doctor?
But of course. Sure. Yeah. Is Santa Claus real? Does a Pope shit in the woods? Is a bear Catholic? I asked the question honestly and directly. You have the answer for me. So, I think now have we not been over the story? Because I can't. I mean, I can, but
yeah, we have, but just give it to us again. Come on.
Well, okay. So the gist of it is this, and I have to start at the beginning, otherwise it doesn't make any sense to start in the middle, I guess, right? I don't know. Right. Sunday. Did I mention I was in Dixon last night? Okay. Well, a fellow by the name of Pat Rose and I were put together as a team in Memphis by Bill Dundee, and we were called the Heavenly Bodies, and we were in Louisville, Kentucky, against the fabulous ones, Steve Kern and Stan Lane. I'm on the apron, and Stan gets the hot tag and comes over and knocks me off the apron, and I go to the floor and I hear my ankle crack. It folded on me, but even though I heard it crack in my head, and if you've ever had that happen, it's interesting because you never forget it. I still didn't believe it could have been broke in any way. A sprain, maybe, but I still had to go in and do the finish, and so that happened, and I'm hobbling back to the locker room. Louisville Gardens was a really great arena. It had two sets of stairs you had to go down to get to the locker rooms. And there were two sets of big locker rooms, team locker rooms, an officials room. And then they had, I think, 8 similar single locker rooms. I go down, take my shower, thank everybody. On the way home, I get, I don't know, might have been a 12-pack, might have been a case, we're not sure, but of beer, and I'm drinking on the way home. I'm staying in a hotel with Billy Travis, Taurus Bobo, Juan Reynosa, and Wendell Cooley. So there's 4 stinking wrestlers in a Days Inn hotel room. If you didn't work, you didn't get paid back then. So the next day is Evansville, Indiana. I'm taking my foot from Tuesday to Tuesday, the next Tuesday in Louisville. My foot was black, and I still didn't think anything was wrong with it. It had turned colors, but I just kept getting it taped up, and it was harder and harder to lace my boots, but there's a lot of things out there that help you get that done. So by Tuesday, Bill Dundee walked in. I was in one of the individual locker rooms dressing rooms in Louisville. Dundee happens to be passing by. He sees whoever it was taping up my ankle, and he comes in and looks at it, and it is black, and it's starting to run up my calf. But my foot was, for all intents and purposes, black. Not black and blue, black. And Bill, and I really didn't think anything of it. I just thought, I'm hurt. I can do it. You get through it because that's what you did. You had a roll of tape. Yeah, do what you have to do. Right. So I was getting it taped. And at the same time, Sherry Martell, who was Pat and my manager, she came, walked in. She said, all right, tomorrow I'm going to come pick you up from the Days Inn. Her roommate was Tina, and she was a nurse. I'm taking you to the hospital. Tina will take care of it, no charge. We're going to get that x-ray. So sure enough, she came by the next morning, went in the hospital, took the x-ray. They put a cast on me right there. My ankle's broke. Sherry then says, we're going to go get your stuff, and you're going to come stay with Tina and me. Okay, so we do. And I go over to Tina and Sherry's house. And now, again, if you don't work back in those days, you don't get paid.
Right.
Yeah. So, and Sherry's working hard. Tina's working hard. They're feeding me. They're taking care of me. But I can't live off these ladies. They're taking care of me. But it's just not what I felt was the right thing to do. So I call my dad. A friend of mine would come. They come meet me in Nashville. My buddy's going to drive my car back for me, all this good stuff. Okay, so I'm resting up. I'm recovering. Brad Armstrong, in the meantime, calls me and says, hey, were you going back to Memphis? So would you like to come work for us in Continental Wrestling in Pensacola? Well, hell, the choice wasn't that hard to make. So I was going to Continental Wrestling. I needed about another 4 weeks to get cleared. Brad gave me a starting date, and I come in. So I'm there, I guess, maybe 6 months. It could be longer. I'm not really sure now about the times. But I'm working the second, third match. And again, anyone who's ever watched Continental Wrestling or worked Pensacola, it's a place to go where you don't want to really be noticed. It's a
Right.
nice place to go.
Right.
But, you're going to make what you're going to make. You can do what you're going to do. It's really great and wonderful. Great people. Ron Fuller, Jimmy Golden, Robert Fuller, the Armstrongs. Gosh almighty, just a lot of fun. No pressure. And, well, in the meantime, there's a lot of hangers on there too. And Robert had a friend who wanted to be in the business, so he's going to be a manager. And they bring him out one night in Birmingham, working. I believe it was Tommy and Johnny Rich, and they're doing an angle. They have their friend at ringside, and their friend takes out a roll of tape and tapes Tommy's legs, I believe it was, to the bottom rope, and they beat the hell out of Johnny, beat the hell out of both of them. Then they go on to the interview stand where Gordon Solie was up on stage in Boutwell and say, that's what's going to happen every time these boys get in a ring with us. We have our cut man here, Dr. Love, to make sure nothing happens to our pretty faces. And they go off the air. Great angle. People are hot. So it's really cool. And the next week, it shows on Saturday afternoon. Everything's happy. Everybody's happy with it. On Sunday, Robert gets a call from the FBI saying, hey, we're interested in the guy that you guys had on TV last week as your manager. Where is he? He's on our top 5 most wanted list. So Robert says, well, he's just one of those boys that come on, hang around. We use him sometimes, and sometimes we don't know where the hell they are. He's kind of split. We don't know where he is really. Don't know a whole lot about him. So when I was in Nashville resting my leg, I happened to get some scrubs, doctor scrubs from Tina, because it's easier to wear and easy to move around and change and all that stuff. So I think we're going to wherever we're going going to Panama City, I think it was. I was riding with Robert and Jimmy at this time, and I happened to be wearing my scrubs, and Robert had a van. And it's just talking about, oh, we had a great angle and we had to get rid of Joe. And, oh, man, what the hell are we going to do next? Well, we'll figure it out. And we stopped to get a drink at 7-Eleven. And as we got out of the van, Robert noticed that I was wearing doctor scrubs. And he said, well, hell, boy, you could be our doctor. So in the parking lot of a 7-Eleven on the way to Panama City, Florida, I got my doctor's degree handed to me. So
Nice.
yeah,
Yes.
I mean, mostly,
Nice.
and I told Rob what you can say is I studied at Baylor University, and I would have been a doctor, but I just spent too much time in the pharmacy. Ha 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 ha, laughing, laughing, laughing. But he went on TV the next week, and said, "Yeah, this boy right here, he's got a degree. He could have been a doctor, but he just spent a little too much time in the pharmacy." And I looked at him like, "No, no, 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 that's between us. I thought we were rude." But that's how I became a doctor. I've gone many times and different times telling people how I studied hard in class, flunked out, and then I finally got it. But I didn't feel like going through that tonight.
Nice.
Obviously, yeah.
From Ibzan Arroyo with a nice little tip. Thank you. Difference between Skip and Jimmy as partners. Obviously, Jimmy Del Rey. Skip is Chris Candido.
Sure. Well, Chris Candido I'd known since he was, I guess, 18 years old, and he came to Smoky Mountain. Jim Cornette had seen him as well and was really impressed with him. Great guy, loved him. He was really passionate about the business, and so was Jimmy Del Rey. And I've said this before. Before Jimmy passed away, I even reconciled and said, "Dude, I know I was a dick, and I apologize for that, but that was where I was at." And they both were very talented, but different guys. Loved them both. And the difference was Chris, he wasn't a guy who'd go out a lot. And I was going out occasionally back then, or doing things occasionally back then that involved other people that I didn't really want to be around. So Chris and I, we did business, and Chris had Tammy at that time as well. So they were kind of doing their thing, and I was doing my thing. Jimmy, when he would come to Smoky Mountain or WWE, you have to have this oversized ego. You have to have this oversized personality, no doubt. But my deal was, if I was going out somewhere, I wanted to kind of check the landscape. And I don't know why. I can't explain why I did a lot of things back then, but I just know my mindset was, I'm walking in this place, the lights are down, and I see a striped cat over there. I see a polka dot cat over there. And then I see a water buffalo way, way, way in the back. And I want to check out these characters. And when I say a cat over here, a water buffalo over there, these are human beings being portrayed in my mind as, I wonder if this is a personality of a polka dot cat, this is a striped cat, that's a water buffalo, stay clear. And that's how I look. But Jimmy just wanted everybody to know we're there, and kind of created this whirlwind of energy. And that's great. That's fine. But where I was at in that moment in my life was, okay, I'm going to lay low. I'm going to kind of scoop in and get beneath the bar and scope out what's over there. So they were just two different people. I loved them both, but yeah, two different people.
So we got the Guardian of Chaos asking a question. Dr. Tom, did you have a better run with Jimmy or Stan, Brett or Chris? Obviously, Jimmy is Jimmy Del Rey, Stan is Stan Lane, Brett is Brett Sawyer, and Chris is obviously the aforementioned Chris Candido.
Well, I think we all had a different one, obviously, but I don't know about best. I don't know if you can say better. I think all of them, by the time I was teaming with Stan, it was Smoky Mountain, and Stan had already had a run as the Fabulous Ones, the Midnight Express. He had been on the mountain. He'd worked and pioneered before, and now he's at the stage of the game where he doesn't want to have to drive 200 miles here, work 3 days, and go 200 miles back. So it was a different thing. But I loved working with Stan because he was funny. He got it. I gave him his space. He gave me my space. He was congenial. He could fit into any conversation, make you laugh, make you feel comfortable. With Brett Sawyer in Oregon, that was the place you would go to get seasoning. And I should have been there in the beginning of my career. I wound up there 5 years into it. And we got along fine too. Brett was a lot of fun. And as I just mentioned about Jimmy earlier and Chris, they were they were just two different people. And again, I was not. I was very much a loner back then, and for reasons I really won't discuss. I've discussed them maybe once or twice, and then afterwards I said, "Yeah, I don't think I need to talk about that too much anymore." But the honest part of this is we never know what affects people. I've learned that going in my journey through this business and journey through life too. You don't know what people go through prior to that makes them the way they are. And not that I had any horrendous episodes happen to me, but I had some pretty interesting things happen to me. Let me say it like that.
Air 10 gives a little bit of a 5 to you. Mr. Arroyo is wondering, when are you coming back to Atlantic City, New Jersey, for some appearances? My neck of the woods. Nice.
I would love to come back to Atlantic City. I would love to do some of the conventions, but here's again the honest way to answer this, and I'm not so sure this is the best way to answer this, but when somebody books you for a convention, they're expecting to make money. And I'm not so sure I'm going to make the kind of money they're hoping I make. So I understand that. Look, it's on me. I should have been more self-promoting. I should have done these things so later on, but there were no conventions then, and I was in a different box back then. So I would love to come back and do this stuff, man. But the thing is, it's just like listening to this show. Why ever you're listening to it, I have no idea. Well, we don't know how many people listen to this thing, and so why do it if nobody's listening? You know, does a tree make a sound if it falls in the forest and nobody's there? We don't know because we're not there.
I think you're a little too self-deprecating though. Like you probably think Stan Lane thinks, "Oh, I just teamed with Bob Eaton. Now I'm teaming with this guy." You know what I mean? That's what you're probably thinking. A little too self-deprecating.
I think he actually said that.
Really? Stan Lane really said that? Oh my God!
He never said that.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, wow. I was going to say, such a nice guy. I'm shocked.
He is a great guy. But that's what I'm saying, man. You go through, and then you realize. People bring up, well, you tried to sound like Roddy Piper. Well, maybe I did. No, okay, yeah, I guess I did. But it was comfortable for me. And then somebody said, I got a new one the other day. So I was trying to be like Jimmy Garvin. And
really?
Oh my God, this was a great conversation. And I thought, what? Garvin? No, I don't know. but
does he know what Jimmy Garvin is?
Well, they did. I wasn't quite sure what they were getting at, although
it doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Well, it didn't make sense. That's why I had to shut them down. And but I do know I was not a top guy in the territories as a Hogan, as a DX, as the Scott Hall. So I know my spot. I know my place. If anybody asks about the legacy, man, look. Every time you say, every time you talk about being the greatest trainer in the world, I appreciate that with all my heart. But everybody is a great trainer in the way they teach if they get somebody over that hump or if they help encourage somebody to where they accomplish their goals. I'm so fortunate just to have been around some really cool people who can do it. But who is the greatest trainer? I don't know if that's so much what is the word I'm looking for? Subjective as opposed to objective. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Everybody has their opinion, and that's great. I dig it. I really do. It's a very cool thing to hear people say. But I will say it in the sense to make an example or to make a point. I trained The Rock, right? No, I had no. I had my hands on The Rock. I trained him, yes, no doubt about it. But he grew up in this business. Come on, man. It wasn't because of me. He was going to be a star regardless. Okay, but I get to put that on my resume because I did have hands on him. I did have some things to do with it. But I know the difference. And Mark Henry, same thing. He was going to be a star no matter what. And they all thank me, and they all say the same thing. But the last second to last convention I went to was Indianapolis. And the last thing this guy said is, "Oh, we'll do it again. That was so great, man," because everybody was coming over saying hi. Everybody was putting me over. And I'm like, oh, my God, because I know everybody's being nice. It's so cool. But I would love to do the conventions again because I get to see everybody, too. And it's so cool. On that note, there's a girl and her father who came and saw me. I think it was in Charlotte. God, maybe 8 years ago. She's now in college doing anthropology. I didn't recognize her, but I recognized her dad the last time she came to WrestleCade this last year. And I went, oh my God, I'm so proud of her because she wants to wrestle, but she's also getting an education and she's following her dreams. So anyway, long story short, yeah, I'd love to come to Atlantic. I'd love to go anywhere. But if I'm not drawing money for you, or nobody wants to pay to come see you, get an autograph or anything like that, they're not going to do it. And it's nothing personal. It really isn't. Tammy was at WrestleCade. Sonny, being Sonny. But she's going to draw because she was there. I totally understand this stuff. But that's what it's going to take to get out in the conventions because they want to make money. They're not there to lose money. Nobody is.
Speaking of training, great question here from the German lady. Who was the hardest for you to train with? Basically, was it Nicole Beth? I remember in a shoot interview mentioning that you trained her. So what do you think about that? Nicole Beth, was she the hardest?
No, Nicole was not the hardest. She really wasn't sure what she was getting into. She wasn't sure what she was into. And I explained it to her in no uncertain terms because that's another thing that people don't want to hear all the time is truth, or they don't want to hear when they're doing something horrible. But I've had people who've never watched wrestling before. So, and I've had, out of the last 5 years, it's been 2 who never watched wrestling before. And when I try to explain why we're doing something and they laugh, or I tried to say, when you get in the ring, you say, okay, all right, come on. Look, all right, let's go. The test of strength spot. I'm not going to mess with you. Come on. And I went through the whole dialogue. So as he circles and as we're going through the test of strength, he goes, all right, come on, don't be so sensitive. And that's just what he said. And I said, whoa, stop. What? What did you just say? I said, well, I told you what you said, told me to say. I said, no, I didn't say anything about don't be so sensitive. That's not the point. That's not what we're doing. So this fellow's a little hard to train because he wasn't catching on. This isn't just about doing moves. It's about the emotions, about the connection. And he didn't get it. And that was, I think, difficult. But at the same time, everybody's like that. And that's my job to help make them understand. It's not theirs. It's mine. But I can only tell you if they have the passion to learn, they do. And if they don't, then they won't. So Nicole wasn't that bad. Actually, Nicole was a lot of fun. She really was.
Here's a question from Fred Rubble. Did you regret cutting your hair as Zip?
Well, I don't know if regret's the word. I didn't like it. It's one of those things when you're getting it cut and then your stomach is sinking even more because you go, this is the end of the road, pal. This is it. And I understood that. But that was during a time when they didn't have anything for us. And I made the comment, if there's anything that comes up, anything, I'm for it. Please let me know. And I think it was maybe 5-10 minutes later, I got a call. Said, well, how'd you like to cut your hair, dye it blonde, and be a Body Donna? And I said, absolutely not. So, oh, okay, click. And I went, oh, wait a minute. That was the opportunity given. Why not take it and try and make something out of it? I didn't like Zip. I didn't like the idea. Didn't like the concept. Didn't like a lot of elements that were connected to that gimmick. So I was going out there. Excuse me. And this is when I was having no fun. Hated every minute of it, inside and outside the ring, just because of everything going on outside the ring. Regret, no. Wasn't happy about it, but I was offered something. It was up to me to make it work, nobody else, and I dropped the ball.
Question from Mr. Arroyo again. He said, does Vince ever call you up for input as far as like regarding upcoming talent and guys that you're training?
Well, on a couple of occasions, he didn't just call me up, but at the building would call me in. We did that with Test, as a matter of fact. Andrew Martin I remember Vince Russo came and found me. And first thing he said is, "What do you think of Andrew Martin?" So he's a good kid. He's coming along. He says, "Could he go on TV tonight?" And I looked at him. I looked down and said, "Absolutely. Why not? You have to start somewhere. You can't wait until you're ready because you're never going to be ready. You can't, oh, wait, I got to get ready." No, you have to be ready at all times. And he said, "I want you to tell Vince that." So I walked with him down the hall, walked in Vince's office, and there's Vince, Pat, I think Lanza, a couple, it might have been Michael too, and a couple other producers in there. And they all looked at me for a minute, and I'm looking around. And he said, "So what do you think?" I said, "About Andrew Martin?" "Yeah, he's ready to go on TV." And I don't think you're going to be ready to say, "I'm ready at any time." You just have to be there. And when they come to you and say, "Are you ready?" you have to say yes, whether you believe it or not. And that's the first step. And that's what I told them.
What about nowadays? Maybe Bruce or somebody else, does somebody else call you and maybe ask, like, "Hey, what do you got coming up?" Because obviously they noticed Ivy Nile and again, and some others.
Well, yeah, but again, everybody's looking for talent all the time. So if we see somebody or something in somebody at JPWA, I don't. Bruce and I, let me clarify this too. Bruce and I don't talk business because it's best. Those who know don't talk, and those who talk don't know. It's nobody's business what they're doing. So Bruce and I make it a point, or we never made a point to say, "Hey, I'm not going to talk business with you," but we just don't, out of respect for what he's doing. And he knows if there is somebody that can't miss, or if there, well, we never know that, but if there is somebody who looks special, who has something unique or something about them, if we need to have a conversation, I'll have the conversation. He'll have the conversation. But back then it was different, and I was there. They didn't have the developmental system they have now. This was in the infancy, so Vince was asking for input, and I had an office there at that time. So I lived in Stanford. These days, it's taken. Hunter had I'm sure they still have the cameras at PC when you went up the elevator. That's what you saw on your monitor in the elevator in Stanford, Titan Towers. So they have the opportunity now to tune in anytime they want and see anybody they want to focus on. And these days, my understanding is they're focusing on athletes who may or may not know anything about wrestling and figure they can just teach them the moves or teach them the passion. And I have an issue with that it's not just about the move. And you can't teach someone how to have passion. You either have it or you don't. And again, talking about throwing everything against the wall and keeping what sticks or keeping what works, it is really the way that I was brought up, the way that I saw it, and the way I saw guys go out and change their look, change their persona, change their attitude, everything. Do you know who Timmy Lou Retton is? The Gymnasty Boys. Timmy.
Okay.
Lou Retton. The last WrestleCade, I did a seminar at AML.
Yep. No,
he didn't attend. He was working that night. But at WrestleCade, as I'm going to the bathroom, he stops me and says, "Hey, Mr. Prichard." I hate that too. I'd rather be, "Hey, Dr. Tom," or "Doc."
Right.
Now, Mr. Prichard kind of sends chills up his spine. He said, "I'm sorry I didn't get to make the seminar yesterday." And I said, "Why didn't you make the seminar yesterday?" He goes, "Well, because I was working that night." And I said, "That's okay. That's all cool. No worries." So I started walking away. He goes, can I get a picture with you and me? I said, "Sure, man. Come on." We took a picture. And then he's looking at me. He goes, "You don't know who I am, right?" I said, "Man, I've done a lot of seminars lately. I'm sorry I don't." He goes, "I'm Timmy." I said, "Timmy?" And I looked at him and goes, "Timmy Lou?" He said, "Yeah." He had changed his appearance where I didn't even recognize him. And the last time he asked me, he lost like 60 pounds. He'd been going to the gym. And the last time we saw each other, he had asked me, "What do I need to do? I want to break out. I want to stop playing around and I want to be serious. And I said, if you want to be serious, you need to change everything. You need to change everything about you so nobody can even recognize you, and get in the best shape of your life and get a buzz out there about you, man. I can't tell you the direct path to take, but if you start here and you keep following the breadcrumbs, because there will be some breadcrumbs that you need to follow, and realize some people have gone this way, some people have taken the fork in the road to the left. You may need to go right, but you got to find it, man. It's one of those things where you have to have confidence. You got to believe, and what that takes is sometimes just sitting alone in silence saying, I don't know the answers, but I need something in this universe to come and tell me and tap me on the shoulder, or at least just infiltrate my mind and my body and get me in the right road, get me in the right attitude, get me in the right vibe to where I will understand how to go on this journey. It rewires your mind when you wake up every day grateful. It rewires your mind when you look at the things you have, as opposed to bitching about the things you don't have. But you have to have a vision, whether it's writing it down where you see it every day, talking about, I want a brand new car and I want it this color. and people say, well, that's hokey pokey and hocus pocus and all that stuff. Maybe, but try it. You might like it. You might find that it does work. I found a lot of people that I've said that to, and I've followed the advice myself. Not every day. I fall short every single day. But I've seen people who've done the work, put the work in, and applied themselves. Kurt Angle won the Olympics. He won a gold medal with a broken freaking neck.
Yes.
That wasn't because he was the biggest or the baddest. But the fact that he won it with a broken neck does make him the baddest. It does give him that attitude edge. It shows you could do anything. And that impressed me more than anything, except when he came in for the first day for a tryout, and he was willing to be coached. He was willing to listen, and he was willing to do whatever it took. And I'm not everybody's cup of tea. My teaching style, my training style is unique, I think, because I don't know anybody else who teaches the way I teach or says the things I say the way I say them. And I do that and say that because nobody else is doing it. And it is a unique experience. And not everybody likes it. Not everybody likes me. Cool. There are different flavors of ice cream. This is my flavor. You got other flavors. So that's the thing about guys like Timothy Retton, who actually do the work. Guys like Mitch LaValle, a.k.a. Jake Tucker, who do the work, who make complete changes, who take chances, and aren't afraid to step out and be vulnerable and have people say, oh, man, you're horrible. Oh, did you see that? Oh, my God. Yeah, because you're going to have haters everywhere you go. And sometimes there's people who just don't want to see anybody else succeed because they're so wrapped up in their miserable lives and their miserable choices that they want to take it out on everybody else. So I don't even know what the question was anymore, John.
Well, here's a good one for you, which is kind of a joke, but kind of funny. Howard's Sean John Tank Top says, why doesn't your brother throw you a bone?
I'll tell you exactly why, because it's not his place. It's my place. It's not about him throwing anybody a bone. You've got to earn it. And I earned my spot in WWE. No doubt it's because he was there and I got a leg up. No doubt. But I wouldn't even say that, because he couldn't. It's not his place. No, he can't jeopardize his. He did it one time. He gave us an opportunity. That's throwing you a bone. But you have to make your own meal. You have to eat the meat off the chicken to get your bone. You have to actually do the work. It's not about, oh, hey, man, he's my brother, bring me in. No. And I totally get that. I was actually explaining that the other day. It's attitude. I didn't make the connections when I was there. I didn't make the friendships or relationships when I was there. I was in that vacuum and that little shoebox sometimes where you close the lid and you can't push it off and get out and see what's in the rest of the world. So it's not about him giving anybody a bone. It's about earning your spot and earning what you get. I wouldn't want to say, hey, give me a bone. And then everybody says, well, you only got that spot because you're your brother. No, I have proven that I can coach. I have proven that I can teach. I have proven some of the goofy things and ridiculous things I say will remain ingrained in memories. Jamie Dundee, the last time I saw him was at Ronnie West's funeral. Jamie, the first thing he came up to me and said, hey, sometimes it's better to remain silent, be thought of an idiot, and speak up, remove all doubt. I'll never forget when you told me that. I'll remember that every day, man. God bless you. You know, so, I mean, and some of the other stuff I say, not everybody's going to digest it and get it right, but I've proven to myself. And that's really all it is. I'm happy in Knoxville. I'm happy doing our school. I don't want to work in a sanitized room or a sanitized company. Would I love the money? Oh, I don't think anyone could deny that. But Bruce is doing his thing. He's doing very, very well because he's also gone through the transformation of attitude. I'm happy for him, and I'm happy for me. I like where I'm at. So things are going to come your way if they are supposed to come your way. Do you help them by being open and letting them come to you, or do you block them? And I blocked things for a long, long time. I have a great excuse for everything I did. I used to say, I've got an explanation, not an excuse. It's the same thing. Anybody can do whatever they put their mind to. Anybody. That's not the issue. The issue is a lot of people don't want to put forth the work. They don't want to do what they have to do to find these nuggets, man. Nobody goes out there and doesn't fail at some time in life. Failures make you who you are. At least they'll test your mettle, and they'll also figure out how are you going to change what you're doing. You know, you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting. You keep failing. Well, you don't want to keep failing. You want to learn from failing. You want to learn from your mistakes. And I learned some from my mistakes, but again, I fall short every day. So I'm happy where I'm at. Bruce doesn't need to throw me anything, but he's always been there. And for the last few years, especially, these last few weeks, especially, it's been a very cool thing. But if we didn't take that path prior to, then these last 3 weeks would have been completely different. So it turned out just the way it should. And I can't, and I don't think anybody else could talk and say that unless you went through that journey and you traveled through the jungles and got out to the other side and had to chop some mambas heads off along the way and do whatever you had to do. But you got out of the forest and you found a clearing, and now you can see a little bit differently. You were mired and mucked up in darkness and all these horrible things coming at you, and all of a sudden you walk out and you go, whoa, it's not that bad. Just take it easy. But it takes years to get to that point. So when you're 25, you're not looking at it the same way as a guy who's in his 60s. You're not, and you can't because you haven't lived the rest of those years yet. So
he said you would have been a great road agent, or you would be.
I was a horrible.
I know
you
hated it.
I did. I hated it. It was horrible because I think again when you're in that position, if you've never been a main event guy, you're not going to know what a main event guy should think like. But I've been around the main event guys, and I've been around the writers' meetings. I've been around these guys who've given advice to main event guys. I've listened to the talks. I've listened to these conversations about how really it's easy when you're dealing with a guy who's confident and he makes a bold statement like, I should get a title shot. Why? Well, because I deserve it. And then you get in the producer's meeting and go, well, he said he deserved a title shot. Let's see if he does. Let's see what he can do with it. And then they give you an opportunity. So as a road agent, you have to be confident. You have to see it too. And I can do it on this level. I can do it with the JPWA guys. I can do it on the independents sometimes with some of the guys who are asking me questions. But, and that's my road agent thing. I hate it in on there because it's just anything you do right It's their idea. Anything you do wrong, it's my idea. So I appreciate that, but I don't believe I would make a great agent like that, like a Jamie Noble, who I think is a fantastic. He really is. Jamie Noble's a fantastic agent. Michael Hayes, we've been through this before, but I don't want to give Michael. I don't want to give Michael any plugs anywhere, anytime, ever, forever, unless he calls me tonight. So.
Speaking of, though, Jamie Dundee, Matt Godwin has a great question. And actually, we spoke about Memphis Developmental and Power Pro all of last week. So check out the archives. Taking to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. You could find it on Apple, Spotify, all your great podcasting hosts out there and platforms. So we did talk about it, but it says, got any good Power Pro wrestling stories? And is Randy Hales all right? He seemed like he's the kind of guy who likes to stare at the sun. Interesting comment about Randy Hales there.
Well, but I get that reference. I mean, even though I wouldn't have used it that way, but I understand, I think, what you're saying. The thing about every territory had their uniqueness back in the day. And Memphis was certainly unique. A live TV show every Saturday morning, Jerry Lawler, Bill Dundee, superstars, rock stars. When you in the 80s, if you walked out on the streets, people knew you just because it was one of the most popular shows on only 3 stations. We didn't have cable back then. It was only 3 stations. And during that time, it was either wrestling, Meet the Press, or, something else that was just boring as hell. So you're going to watch these cartoon characters. You're going to watch wrestling. Randy was brought into it, and he was mentored by Eddie Marlin. He took care of Eddie in his later years as well.
Right.
Anybody who does this office stuff, especially, has to have a few screws loose, because when he became a promoter, he found out, I think, that not everybody's into what you're into, and he lost money, gained money, or lost money, made money, but he was always right, always cool with me. He was always all right with me. He wanted to be, he wanted to have fun, wanted to be one of the boys, and he got to work, do some of this crazy stuff, and I never had any problems with Randy Hales. I did a deal with, I'll tell you this, gosh, I don't even remember how many years ago it was, where AEW came into Memphis, and they were congratulating or honoring the legends, and they didn't invite Dundee. And so I went on Twitter and said, "Come on, Randy, what's the deal with Dundee?" Well, once again, sometimes I can't help myself, and I just kind of keep going. If you throw me some bait, I'm going to bite. And sometimes I'll let you reel me in, but other times I want to stay a little bit lower and see how far I can go before you give up. So I started working with Randy online, but he didn't know I was working. I thought of all the people who would work back with me. And so I saw him at I saw him at one of Burt Prentice's shows. It was a special deal for Lawler before the 50th thing. And, hey, by the way, I just see this here. So, yeah, Matt, you can say that. I get that. I totally get the reference.
But Jonesboro, come on.
I get Jonesboro too. So, but he was at this Lawler deal, and we were all going to go eat at the restaurant in Jackson. And it was the Lawler 50th. That's what it was, because we had just come from the ballpark. Anyway, and I saw Randy, and he waved, and I waved, and I was going to come over to see him. And when I see somebody on occasion, I'll give him like a working forearm. So I went to give him a working forearm, and he blocked it real quick, came back like this at me. I said, whoa. I said, what's going on? I said, well, I didn't know if you were going to punch me out or what. I don't know what the deal is. I said, Randy, I was working. You got to work with me, kid. Dundee had apparently done something that upset the AEW guys, and that's cool.
Right.
But Dundee's Dundee, and then but I thought of all people, and then he wasn't sure, and then I had to realize that not everybody knows, if they have lingering heat or not. Hell, I'm always on guard because I don't know what kind of heat I've got. No, actually, I take that back. I do know what kind of heat I've got.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just also in the archives there, Team Prichard, which you mentioned, Power Pro Wrestling. You, Bruce, Giant Silva, and Dr. Death, maybe the greatest combo of a team ever. You guys
Evidently.
beat Sean Stasiak, Baldo, which is Matt Bloom, obviously A-Train, Vic Grimes, and the aforementioned Randy Hale. So pretty
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
Well, not so amazing when you look at who had the power over the office, I guess. I don't know. See, I can't help myself. I can't help myself. I'm sorry.
Guardian of Chaos said, Dr. Tom, how was it to train with Shane O'Mac? Seems very grounded.
Oh, Shane O'Mac is great. He really was. He still is. He's was one of those guys that he got it. He understood, and he's one of us. He really is. He's a McMahon, and he's done very well for himself. But he can relate. He's sincere. He's authentic, and he's athletic. And he was genuinely in love with the business. Genuinely one of those guys that put in the work. And in fact, when the Main Street Posse was training with him and stuff, it was a lot of fun. And I keep saying that word over and over, fun, because once this isn't fun, then you might want to reevaluate why you want to be in it, because this isn't for everybody, and it ain't ballet, and it could be very disheartening and heartbreaking. So Shane would make it fun, and he wanted to have fun, and he was fearless to this day.
How about Chris Adams? Have any stories about him? A man ahead of his time.
Ooh, I have a lot of stories about Chris Adams that I can't tell. Yeah,
oh shit!
No, I can't tell because
oh,
Chris.
Damn.
Well, no, but I say it like this because Chris came to California. I think that was his first territory in the States, and he looked like Paul McCartney. He was a young, gorgeous guy, but he came with his wife, and I think everybody knows Chris had issues. We all have issues, but Chris, I saw firsthand from the first time he got here when we went out, was I want to, if I'm going to go out somewhere, I want to be happy the whole time. And I would have drinks on occasion, but I wasn't a drinker, let's say. And I don't like mean drunks, and I don't like nasty drunks. I just don't. I don't want to be around those kind of people. Don't want to be around people who want to start fights and stuff like that. It's just not, man, life's too short. Let's have fun. And Chris would have a few drinks or 10 and then just completely either black out or just not be a very nice guy to be around. So, but I had fun with him too at the same time on trips and in matches. But there's other stories I just can't tell because it's not right. He's not here to defend himself. He's not here to refute it. And I don't want to spread rumors. How about that? Not about Chris anyway.
So we'll just do one final question before we wrap it up. This is a good one, even though they spelled Paul Bosch's name wrong, but that's okay. What is the most memorable lesson you learned from Mr. Paul Boesch?
Oh, man. The most memorable. Well, I'll tell you this, and this is catching up to me too. Paul could be very stern, very nice man, but he also was one of those guys who wasn't shy about telling you what he felt was the truth. And I remember I was inspired, I guess, in a weird way when people tell me I couldn't do this. I wouldn't do this. Oh, man, it's just, you don't want to do this. And Paul would do that a lot. And he when I finally broke in, he didn't fight, because the way I broke in, I was working at the office, and then Joe Mercer and Nick Kozak were running a show in Bryan, Texas on October 20th, 1979 with Ernie Holmes, football player. And they were going to put me on the card. And I went to Paul and I said, are you okay if I do this show that Joe and Nick are going to put on in October. He says, go ahead and have fun. And I thought, okay, now he's just relinquishing. I think in his mind, and I can't speak for Paul, but in his mind, he probably thought one and done. And then he got me booked in Oregon, and Gary got me booked in California, and all these things. But he wrote an article in the program in one of these little 6-page programs about how he was wrong, trying to bend a twig to grow this way, and I was wanting to go the other way. He said I was wrong. It was right there in front of me, and I couldn't see it. I tried to squash his passion, and I couldn't do it. And he taught me that no matter what, you've got to keep going. And later on, I learned about Paul. I learned about his he had an ego as well as everybody like in his position should. He'd been in the military. He had done a lot of great things for Houston. He had done a lot of great things for wrestling. But if somebody just says to you, oh, it's okay, come in, let me cuddle you and let me love you, and it's an easy road to get to, you don't appreciate it as much. And I think that's probably the greatest lesson I took away from Paul. He didn't treat people equally. He treated them fairly. And I don't think anybody wants to, everybody says they want to be treated equally, but I don't think that's the case. I do think it's a case of, well, is it fair for the guy who doesn't have what you have to be given an opportunity just because? No, he's got to work just as hard. And same thing with the guy who has everything. Just because he has everything doesn't mean he should get an easy coast into the life he wants. So you got to treat the hard work comes equally, not always fair, but each guy is going to have to work just as hard, and some may have to work even harder, but you're going to be given an equal opportunity, not because you got the best car, not because you got the best things. No, because some people who don't have the best car or the best things need to be given an opportunity. So give him the opportunity, just like you're going to give this guy the opportunity, and see who comes out on top. And I think that's what I got from Paul. Just being around him, listening to him talk, seeing the people who he did give opportunities to, like Gino Hernandez or whoever else it may be, not just in wrestling, but in life. I always took that away from him because I always wondered why he would let me in if he really didn't want me in. I don't think that was the case with him. He just wanted to make sure that I was going to put the work in. And I think he did that with everybody. Some people took it as a personal assault, and it wasn't. It was just knowing how life is, knowing that this business is tough, knowing it's hard, and knowing it's not easy, and knowing it's not for everybody, knowing you will lose your family, maybe, knowing you may lose a lot more than that, if you're not strong. And anyway, Paul was a great man. And if it wasn't for him, if it wasn't for my brother Ken, I would have never got the opportunity. So that's what I learned.
Now let's head towards the plugs. That's a great ending point, a great stopping point. A pro wrestling curriculum, advice, suggestions, the stories to help the aspiring pro get to the next level. Dr. Tom, where can the people get this awesome book?
You can get that awesome book at jpwrestlingacademy.com. Just click on the icon. I believe it takes you to Amazon. I'm going to have to do that one day so I know exactly what's going on. No, I've done it. I'm just kidding. But you can get it at jpwrestlingacademy.com right there on the front page.
Nice. Of course, you go to Pro Wrestling Tees, ProWrestlingTees.com, pick up a JPWA shirt or a Dr. Tom shirt. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. Check out the website, tmptempire.com. And of course, follow Dr. Tom on Twitter at Dr. Tom Prichard. Dr. Tom, what else you got going on?
April 4th is going to be the second class of 2022 at JPWA, Knoxville, Tennessee. We're taking a week off, but man, I've got some cool stuff coming up, John. I got to wait until I clear it and tell you about this. And even though I have a week off from training, it's going to be a really busy week. Some really cool stuff going on, man. And we had some cool stuff happen last week too, with A&E, Tennessee. I think it was Knoxville Public PBS, Knoxville Public
Broadcasting.
Broadcasting. Thank you, broadcasting. services system, whatever it's called. We have some real cool stuff coming up.
Nice. Great stuff. As always, thank you everybody out there for listening. We'll see you right back here next week for a little Taking You to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. We'll see you next week, folks.